My GOZO bell, talking about a topic that I hear a lot. What is inner peace? By the way, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you are, kind of how you define inner peace. What does that mean to you in terms of what God says about peace, what you have experienced in terms of inner peace, and what helps you find that inner peace? So I was listening to a podcast about this very topic of finding peace, and it made a lot of sense to me, and it got me thinking about exactly the word peace. What does it mean to have peace? And by the way, leave me a comment below and like, subscribe, comment on this video wherever you're watching me, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever you are. Thank you again for being here. By the way, if you're new, my name is davidTrig, and I love to help people find peace in their lives, regardless of hang-ups and hurts that we may have, so that we can live a life of joy, of GOZO, purpose, and kindness. So I found that word peace to be very obviously special, and that's the word shalom. Shalom means a lot of things. It means rest. It speaks about blessing. It talks about peace within, peace with God. It's a Hebrew word that has a lot of breadth. It's not just peace with God or peace with your brother. It is a holistic sense of peace. First of all, it's peace with God. And so now you might say, well, why do I need peace with God? Or what's wrong? Why aren't I at peace with God? And I think that that's the place to start. A lot of us as humans, we don't feel at peace with God because of our memories of things that we feel guilty about, or perhaps actions or things that we've done. And that's a very troublesome thing for a lot of people. And so someone might say, well, I don't believe in God. That's why I'm an atheist, or that's why I left the church. And so that's how they deal with that maybe need for peace. Other people may say, well, I find peace with God through going to church, or through prayer, or through Bible study. And that's another way to find that people can find peace. Others may say, well, I'm going to try to be perfect and do all the right things. You know, I think any of those things can fall short of actually finding peace with God, because they are you trying to be perfect, or you wanting to be better. Whereas shalom, if you think of, I always think of both words, Sabbath and shalom, as very similar. Peace and shalom is a peace that comes from God himself. It is you being so filled with the very presence of God that you don't have to do more or less. It is a peace that comes because you know that there is wholeness inside of you. There is something good inside of you. When you have peace, let's say, just think of politically, right? Let's say two countries are at war, or you and your neighbor are at war over parking, let's say. Well, when you have that conflict or that problem with your neighbor, you don't have peace. And that's because there's something that's bothering you about your neighbor. Or let's say between countries, there's something that you're fighting over, a border, or about trade or the economy. And so when you are looking externally to find peace with God or with yourself, you're going to always fall short. You're never going to reach that destiny. Let me just check something really quicker before I keep going. Okay, great. So you're never going to reach that destiny because you're always looking to the outside world to give you peace. You really have to come to grips with your own sense of peace. You have to say, I love who I am. I am happy with who I am, even if my neighbor parks in my parking spot. And you might be angry about that. You might take him to court. You might write him a nasty note and feel good for a moment. But at the end of the day, it doesn't bring you peace because you are at war with yourself. And so you have to start from inside out. How can I find peace within? And now, how do we find peace within? Which goes back to the question, right? Inner peace. Well, you have to find a source of peace that will fulfill you, that will give you balance, that will give you stability in life, that isn't external to you, but that is internal. And so obviously for a lot of us, people of faith, we would say that that is Jesus, that Jesus is our peace. But I want to break that down. Now, other people, before I move on from that, may find peace in what they own, or in who they marry, or in people liking them. And so you have to be honest with yourself in terms of the current thing that you are looking to give you peace. So that's what we're going to talk about that second. But let's start with, what does it mean to have God be your peace? Well, as I said, you might think that it's being perfect. Okay, if I'm perfect, I'm a perfect human being, and I never get angry with my kids, or I always get straight A's in school, then God will be happy with me, and therefore we are not angry at each other. God is happy with me. Well, that's very contrary to the picture of God that we know. He isn't waiting for you to mess up. He isn't trying to catch you at something wrong that you do, at something that you do that's wrong. Instead, he is our peace. In other words, he offers you a bag of coins called peace. He's saying to you, my peace I give to you. You know, that's a very beautiful verse in the Bible, right? He says that my peace I give to you, not like the world gives. And so when Jesus says that he appears to his disciples, he says, my peace I give to you. And so you want to think of having peace with God, not as something that you're doing, like in a relationship or with your neighbor that you're mad at over parking, but something that you're receiving from him. The Bible says that we have the mind of Christ. In other words, that it's something that you're receiving. We receive the peace of God. When we take communion, we say his body was broken for you. In some churches, they say, this is the peace of God. We're offering, I remember this church I used to go to, they had the peace bread, or this love bread. And so every time we would eat of this bread, we would say the peace of God, the peace of Christ, because it's something that Jesus, that God himself gives to you. Now, how can you receive his peace? How can you then taste his peace, experience his peace? It starts with you realizing that it's not about your performance. It's about you realizing that his peace is already in you, that his peace is right there in you to experience. That what happens often is that we don't experience his peace because we are trying to do something to find peace. We're trying to eliminate something that is causing us stress. So back to the story of our neighbor, you say, well, I don't have peace with God. I don't have peace with my neighbor. He's parking in my parking spot, or he's parked too close to my car. So instead of you going out there and yelling at your neighbor or being kind of passive aggressive about it, you quiet your mind and you say, God, you are my peace. So Lord, I want you to then give me peace. Lord, and you be specific. God, give me peace. Even though this makes me mad, that I am not going to do what I want to do, which is write that nasty note or yell or scream, but instead I'm going to receive your peace. And so you could do something as simple as quieting your mind, maybe go into your bedroom or sitting at your table and say, Lord, would you give me peace for this situation? Would you take away my angry thoughts? Would you help me to release the injustice that's happening to me? Would you fill me with peace so that you can look at that situation with a different perspective? Let's say it's something more personal even. Let's say it's someone in your own home who's being unfair with you. Your friend, your sister, your husband, your wife, maybe a cousin or an in-law, your husband, your wife, and you say, this is not fair. Let's say it's about taking out the trash, something simple, right? Well, I always take out the trash. And so you're at conflict. You're at war with the person you love at home. So instead of you trying to find peace by winning, you ask God to give you peace in that situation. Lord, would you give me peace in this in this area of just taking out the trash? Would you fill me with your peace? And now, how long do you wait? When do you know that you have his peace? When your mind can settle, and your mind can settle down, and you're not pushing or still filled with that anger and that frustration. I'm just looking at a few things here. You're not, mad at the world. You're not saying, man, I can't believe this. I can't believe that. Let me just do a few things here. I want to just add to this stream here really quick. Okay, there we go. Okay, so yes, hi on Twitch. Glad to see you there. So when you're in peace with yourself, your shoulders relax. It's like taking a nap, like at 1 p.m. or at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. You've had a long day. Maybe it's a rainy day. It's a Saturday like today, and you take a nap and you wake up rested. That's what having peace that comes from above feels like. Like with the nap, you didn't have to, you didn't go to bed thinking, I need peace. I need to get peace. How am I going to get peace? I have to make sure that, no, you just took that nap, and the nap itself restored you. It gave you rest. It's the same thing. Rest, peace, Sabbath. All these words are very related. When you take that nap, you feel rested and you have better perspective and clarity. When you are filled with the peace of God and you quiet your mind, you stop that monkey brain, as they call it, that reptile brain that wants to just hate and be and win and take justice into your own hands and be revengeful. When you quiet that mind and you say, God, would you fill me? And really, he's already filled you. You're just saying, would you become peace in me? Would you take over? Would you remind me that peace is within me? Now, what are some of the things that can help us get in tune with the peace of God? Well, as I said, one of them is meditation, quietness, prayer. To literally stop yourself from yelling and writing that nasty note or yelling at your friend or typing that nasty comment online and saying, wait, why am I about to do this? Oh, because I feel hurt, or because I'm having a bad day, or because I feel like a victim here, and so I'm going to let someone else have it. So you have to quiet your mind and say, okay, wait a minute. What's going on? Second is to then begin to practice God love, self-love, and that's by saying, I am at peace. It is well with my soul because God loves me, because I have everything that I could ever have wanted, because it is well with my soul. Even though you have these tough circumstances in your life, even though your neighbor did park too close to your car, even though someone online was nasty to you, last week, you say, wait a minute, I don't have to respond that way. I have a choice here to make. I can not only quiet my mind, but I can also acknowledge or access that peace that is within me and act differently. And then third, exactly that, is to then do what peace would do. Ask yourself, what would peace do right now? So back to the neighbor, right? He parks his car too close to yours. He almost hit you, or maybe he even did hit your bumper. So what naturally comes to mind for most of us is write that note, yell, scream, or go inside and be passive aggressive, or next time you're going to bump him as well, and this war just goes on. So first, you practice contemplation and meditation. You practice letting that anger be gone. Second, you say, God, would you fill me with peace? And you pray, you say, Lord, I need your peace. I need peace, God. And you practice and you access that peace by going on a walk, by reading a beautiful verse, by singing a song, by just distancing yourself, by practicing yoga, by resting, by taking a nap. You distance yourself from the quick response, delayed gratification kind of thing. And then third, you ask, what would peace do? What would peace look like? What would peace do, right? How would I act if I felt happy? And so one of the techniques I often use is I try to put myself in that person's shoes. And I think, okay, I wonder if that car belongs to my neighbor's friend. And maybe, it's a Super Bowl weekend, right? Maybe, even though maybe that car belongs to maybe his mom that he hasn't seen in 3 years or in 3 months because of this whole craziness. and she's here to help decorate or maybe make some yummy tacos for tomorrow. And maybe, it is Super Bowl weekend. There was nowhere else to park. And guess what? I can just move my car. There's a spot over there, and maybe I can pull it into the driver, or maybe I can just simply move it in front a little bit just to get my mind off of it. Because, they say, see no evil, hear no evil. So maybe you seeing that problem is what's making you mad. So why don't you then remove the problem from your eyes so that you're not thinking about it all the time? Move your car. Well, that's not fair. That goes back to that anger. Every time you go back and forth, practice, rinse and repeat until you find yourself putting yourself in their shoes, thinking peaceful thoughts, thinking love thoughts versus justice thoughts, anger thoughts, or, oh, woe is me, or hateful, angry thoughts. Is, wait a minute, what can I do to diffuse the situation, to de-escalate the situation? Move the car. Imagine that it's his mom. Now, it may not be his mom. It may be his friend. He just hit you because he was drunk. Okay, so even if a wrong has been done to you, you want to say, okay, how can I diffuse the situation? And then you can go and say, hey, John, by the way, I just want to make sure, is that your friend's car? I just, can you just make sure that no one hits me? Just making sure. Oh, and then maybe your neighbor, oh yeah, man, I'm sorry so much, bro. My mom just came over, and you're like, oh, wow. What I thought was right. If I thought, the happy thoughts, the peaceful thoughts that I thought that I was practicing actually were true. Or maybe he'll say, oh man, my friend came over and he was a little out of it, and I'm sorry, I'll pay for whatever damage. And he'll give you $500 and you're like, oh, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. But you worked it out. And that hateful, angry thought is gone. And you have that relationship now. And you can move on. And so, these are just very practical tips, but they are some of the hardest things for us to do, especially when we have been wronged. It happens to me all the time. I have so many stories. But every time that I react in anger, it feels good. I think sometimes I even may win in my mind, but I may have lost, like they say, the war. Now, someone could say, well, do you mean that you need to just let people just hit your car all the time? No. As I said, you go through a process, you meditate, breathe, separate. What would peace do? And you go and do something about it. You still are going to act. I'm not saying that you're going to let someone just constantly hit you and park in your spot and blah, blah, blah. And obviously there are levels of this. If the injustice or the offense is greater, then you need to still practice the same things, but your response, or what would peace do, might be a little more, legal, or you might have to, if it's the fifth time that your neighbor hits your car and parks in your spot, then you may need to talk to him directly next time and say, in a nice, kind way, to say, how's it going, man? Thanks so much for parking there. I've noticed that you come every Friday. Everything okay? I just want you to know that I sometimes feel like, I'm going to get hit. I just want to make sure that everything's okay. Is that all right? Can you just kind of, there's maybe a spot here, or, just open-ended. Make open-ended assumptions, especially if it's people that you live with or next to, or people that you work with, people in your own house where you don't want to be at war with them. Now, what do you do if you already, as we say in Spanish, metiste la pata, you're already in too deep with this person. You've been at war with them for years, maybe not quite years, but maybe days, months, whatever. Well, this is a time for you to practice the same things and to say, what would peace do? What would peace do with, let's say it's your boss, right? Someone that you don't necessarily have to have a buddy-buddy relationship with, but you probably don't want to be at war with your boss, right? Let's say it's your parents, something more personal. Again, as I said, there are levels of this. So I'm not assuming that everything here is so easy and you can just fix it. But the same practices stand. Calm your mind down, meditate, pray, put yourself in their shoes, give yourself some space and time, and then ask yourself, what would peace do? What would peace look like? And maybe what peace would do is write an email to, let's say it's your boss, and say, hello, let's say your boss name is Martha. Hi, Martha. This is this is John. And, over the last few weeks, I've been frustrated. See, you can use language that is honest, because I feel like my job, my hours are all over the place. Can you just walk me through that and tell me kind of what you think is happening? See, that is something that is difficult for a lot of people, because there are a lot of people, especially if you're into the Enneagram. I teach a lot of psychology and spirituality, science and faith, because I think that we need to be holistic as well as practicing body stuff, breathing and yoga and exercise, healthy eating. But you want to be thinking about, okay, what does this email need to say? How do I handle this situation? How can I address my boss in a way that will restore things, especially if you want to keep that job, you want to restore that relationship, and then you want to also think in terms of long term. You don't have to restore that relationship all at once. It may take months and years, because if the offense or the grievance is deep, let's say there's a problem with your mom, some financial issues with a relative, you have maybe some physical or mental abuse that no one knows about. And these are things that take time to heal. That peace with that person may look like a process of months and years of giving yourself time to be ready for the next thing. The Bible says, to forgive 70 times 7. And I often think of it not just as you want to forgive all the time, but the fact that offenses happen a lot. And we have to keep working at this 490 times, 4 million times. There are people, there are situations in my life that I still don't have peace over. I am still in process. I am still working through them. I'm giving myself time to say, okay, maybe in due time, I will get to that place of peace with me, with myself, with God, with that person. Maybe the last thing I'll say is one of the images that I use a lot is a cross. And I think of it in terms of the top 3 points. You have the one that goes up. Obviously, you have the one that goes, meaning the 2 lines. You have the vertical line or I don't know, pole or leg or branch. You have the horizontal stick, branch of the cross. And then I always imagine a circle in the middle. And so I think of peace in 3 dimensions. I think peace with God. Is there something that I need to ask God to forgive me over? Is there something I need to ask God for forgiveness about, to find peace with Him? Horizontal, is there someone that has offended me that I need to let go of that offense? Maybe not 100%, but 1%, 10%. Is there someone that I know I offended? And do I need to say, I'm sorry for the way that came across. I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry for what I did. And to be honest with that person, ask for forgiveness. And then third is peace within. Is to stop blaming, stop shaming, stop the anger, stop the hate, the violence, the writing nasty comments, whatever habit you've fallen into that is from a place of anger and frustration and of war, of violence, and to say, I need to change. I need to practice some new habits because it's not giving me any peace to be this way. Well, I hope these tips help you. I want to just say thank you to the Twitch crowd and to anyone who may be here on the replay. As I said, I'm here to bring you peace and gozo, joy. Gozo means joy in Spanish, for the whole family. My name is davidTrig, and I'm here to help you through these talks to find peace, and especially when it comes to transitional times of change as we're all going through these days. Shout out to Antone on Twitch and to anyone else who may be watching on the other platforms. Thanks again for